Evelyn, a kind woman with tired eyes and a gentle smile, had just come back from the grocery store. She carried a brown paper bag full of food, warm rotisserie chicken, fresh bread, and a small can of beans. She looked forward to eating a warm meal in her cozy kitchen. She reached her front porch and pulled out her house key, but when she tried to turn it in the lock, the key didn't work. Confused, Evelyn tried again and again. She knocked on the door, thinking maybe something was wrong with the lock. A few seconds later, the door opened, but not all the way. A young woman stood in the doorway. Her arms were crossed. Her name was Natalie. She was her son, Daniel's girlfriend. Natalie didn't smile. She just looked at Evelyn and said, "You don't live here anymore." Evelyn blinked. "What? You don't live here? Daniel said you signed the house over to him. You should go." The bag in Evelyn's arms fell to the ground. The bread rolled onto the porch. The chicken container opened a little, steam escaping into the air, but Evelyn didn't notice. She just stood there, frozen, her heart cracking inside her chest. She had no idea what Natalie was talking about. To understand this moment, you have to go back. Many years ago, in 1996, Evelyn lived in Jackson, Mississippi. She was a nurse, strong, kind, and always helping people. But inside, she was sad. Evelyn had wanted a baby for many years, but after several miscarriages, the doctors told her she might never have a child of her own. One rainy night, something happened that would change her life forever. A little boy, just 2 years old, came into the hospital. He had a broken wrist and was very thin. His name was Daniel. His foster mother had left him at the hospital and never came back. When Evelyn saw him, her heart squeezed. He looked up at her with wide, scared eyes and whispered, "Mama?" That was the moment Evelyn made a decision. She adopted Daniel, gave him her last name, and brought him home. Evelyn didn't just raise Daniel, she gave him everything. He had asthma, so she made sure he always had his medicine. He struggled in school, so she stayed up late every night to help him with homework. She took him to piano lessons and soccer practice. She even taught him how to braid hair, saying, "Someday, when you have a daughter, you'll want to know how to do this." She gave him birthday cakes, hugs, bedtime stories, and endless love. When Daniel got older, things started to change. In high school, he started coming home late. In college, he barely called. Evelyn didn't understand what was happening, but she still prayed for him every night. After Evelyn's husband Leonard passed away from an illness, she was lonely. Then out of the blue, Daniel started coming around again. He helped her with chores. He brought Natalie with him sometimes, and they would sit in the living room laughing and acting like a happy couple. Evelyn thought maybe things were getting better. One Sunday, Daniel brought some papers and sat down at the kitchen table. "These are just for taxes and to protect the house, Mom," he said casually. Evelyn didn't read the papers. She trusted him. She signed them. That was the biggest mistake of her life. Now, standing on her own porch, hearing Natalie say, "You don't live here anymore," Evelyn finally understood what had happened. Daniel had tricked her. He had used her. Love against her. Natalie slammed the door shut. Evelyn stood there for a long time, not moving. Then, slowly, she picked up her spilled groceries and walked to her car. That night, she slept in the driver's seat, holding the bag of chicken close to her chest like it was a blanket. It was the first night she had ever felt truly alone. Even though Evelyn was locked out of her home, even though the son she raised had betrayed her, even though she had no place to go, Evelyn was not weak. She had been through storms before, and soon Daniel would learn something very important. He had taken her house, yes, but he had no idea what she still had hidden inside her heart, and what she had was powerful. Evelyn sat in her old silver car, parked near a gas station. She hadn't eaten anything from the groceries she bought that day. The warm chicken had grown cold. The bread was squished. The beans rolled under the seat. She sat still, hands on the wheel, staring into the dark night, the place that used to Her home now had new locks, and inside that home was her son, Daniel, the boy she had loved and raised, and Natalie, the girl who spoke to her like a stranger. Evelyn's heart ached, not just because she had lost her house, but because she had lost her son. She looked at the ceiling of the car and whispered, "God, why did he do this to me?" She remembered something Daniel once said when he was 8 years old. "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house and a shiny car." She smiled that day, hugged him tightly and said, "As long as I have your love, I already have everything." But now that same little boy had grown into a man who locked her out of her own house. The first night, Evelyn slept in the car near a gas station. The second night, she moved to a church parking lot. She parked close to the back, away from the streetlights. On the third night, a kind woman at the church gave her some food and told her about a small motel nearby that was cheap. Evelyn checked in, using some cash she had in her purse. She sat on the edge of the bed in that small motel room, staring at the wall. She didn't have her things. She didn't have her pictures. She didn't have her books. She didn't even have her favorite pillow. All she had was a small suitcase, her purse, and a big secret. Many years ago, when her husband Leonard died in the hospital from a doctor's mistake, Evelyn had won a lawsuit. The hospital paid her $9.5 million in a settlement, but Evelyn never told Daniel. She didn't want him to grow up thinking about money. She wanted him to have a normal life, to work hard, to be kind, to learn the value of things. She put the money away in a private account under her maiden name. She didn't touch it unless she truly needed to. And now, she needed to. The next morning, Evelyn took a deep breath, opened her old notebook, and found a name she hadn't called in years. CJ. CJ was Leonard's best friend, a strong man with a deep voice and a good heart. He had been a lawyer for over 30 years. When Evelyn called him, her voice shook. "CJ, it's me." "Evelyn." He was surprised. "Evelyn, are you okay?" "No," she whispered. "Daniel, he took my house." She told him everything. How Daniel had given her papers to sign, how she trusted him, and how Natalie slammed the door in her face. CJ was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "He tricked you." But he forgot who raised him. CJ met with Evelyn the next day. He looked through the papers she had signed. "These are not just tax forms," he said. "These are ownership transfers. He made you sign your house over to him, but the way he did it, without telling you what they were, that's fraud." Evelyn's hands trembled. CJ smiled gently. "Don't worry. We can fight this. Together." They filed a case in court. CJ moved fast. He knew the law, he knew the system, and most of all, he knew Evelyn deserved justice. Evelyn sat in the courtroom quietly, her hands folded, her heart beating fast. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted what was right. Before the court made its decision, Evelyn went back to her old house one last time. She stood on the porch and knocked. Daniel opened the door. His face changed when he saw her. Maybe he was surprised, maybe he felt guilty. Evelyn didn't yell. She didn't cry, she just said, "I gave you everything, Daniel. I gave you my name, my love, my home, and you gave me a piece of paper and a lock." Daniel looked away, ashamed. Evelyn stepped closer and said, "But you should know, I'm not broke. I never was." Daniel's eyes went wide. She turned and walked away. She didn't need his answers anymore. Back in the motel room, Evelyn waited for the judge's decision. Every day she sat by the window, watching the sun rise and fall. She talked to CJ often, she prayed, and then, one quiet afternoon, her phone rang. CJ's voice came through the line. "Evelyn, we won." Her eyes filled with tears. The court had ruled in her favor. The deed transfer was found to be fraudulent. She could go back to her house. But now, she wasn't sure she wanted to. Evelyn sat alone in the motel room, phone still in her hand. "We won," CJ had said. She could go back to the house, her house. But Evelyn didn't move. She looked at her suitcase, the one she'd been living out of. She looked at the Bible beside it, tucked neatly under a folded sweater. Then she looked out the window. She whispered softly, "I don't want that house anymore." Not because it wasn't beautiful, not because she didn't love it, but because it no longer felt like home. Evelyn took some money from her secret account and called a real estate agent in a small town called Pascagoula. It was quiet there, peaceful. She bought not one, not two, but 3 little houses on the same street. They were old but strong. Just like her, she fixed them up, painted the walls warm yellow and soft cream, put flowers in front of each door, hung wind chimes on the porches, and then she gave those homes a name. Len's Place, named after Leonard, her late husband. Evelyn didn't want to live in those houses alone. She had a new dream now. She remembered how lonely it felt to sleep in her car, how cold the nights were, how heavy it felt to carry pain in silence. So she opened her doors to older women who were left behind by their own families, just like she had been. One woman named Miss Geraldine had been kicked out by her daughter. Another, Mama Lou, had lost her house to greedy relatives after her husband died. Evelyn hugged each of them and said, "You're home now." They cooked together. They prayed together. They laughed together. And for the first time in a long time, Evelyn felt joy again. Evelyn lived in the smallest house at Len's Place. She didn't need much. Just a bed, a Bible, a rocking chair, and an old photo of Daniel when he was 5 years old, holding a toy truck and smiling like sunshine. She would look at that photo some nights and feel her chest get tight. She still loved him, even after everything. 1 year passed. One morning, the mailman knocked and handed her a plain white envelope. There was no return address, just her name, handwritten. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. It said, "Mom, I don't know what to say. I messed up. I thought I was protecting something. I thought I needed control. But I hurt you. And I can never take it back. Natalie left me. I lost the house. I lost everything. And I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm sorry." Daniel Evelyn sat in her rocking chair, holding the letter for a long time. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just quietly folded it and slipped it inside her Bible, right next to Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. One of the ladies at Len's Place asked Evelyn later that day, "Do you ever think you'll talk to him again?" Evelyn thought for a moment. Then she said, "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not." The woman nodded slowly. Evelyn added, "But I'm not waiting anymore. I can love him and still move on." That night, she cooked a big meal for all the women at Len's Place. Fried chicken, sweet potatoes, cornbread, and peach cobbler for dessert. They held hands and prayed before eating, and Evelyn, for the first time in many years, felt light in her heart. Many people think strength is shouting or fighting or staying angry. But Evelyn knew the truth. Real strength is quiet. It's sleeping in your car and waking up with hope. It's signing a bad paper but standing up to make it right. It's getting betrayed and still choosing not to hate. It's building something new from the pieces someone else tried to break, and it's loving deeply, even when love doesn't come back the same way. 3 years later, Len's Place had grown. There were now 5 houses instead of 3. Volunteers came to help. Church groups donated food. One day, a young reporter came to interview Evelyn. They asked, "What made you start Len's Place?" Evelyn looked at the roses blooming by the mailbox and said, "Pain, and the decision not to let it destroy me." The reporter asked, "Do you regret anything?" Evelyn smiled gently. "No," she said. "Even the bad parts brought me here."